I remember exactly the moment everything changed, the moment my marriage, my future, and my whole life fell into a deep, icy chasm. It was a chilly afternoon in late November. The kind of day when the clouds hang heavy over the city and a strange silence settles into the streets as if something dramatic is about to unfold. I'd gotten back from my business trip a day earlier than expected. The meetings had gone smoothly, a rare bit of good news in a hectic quarter, and I'd decided to surprise Lila. I'd called the hotel from the airport to cut short my stay and hopped on the first flight back home without a word. I thought we'd celebrate quietly, just the two of us, over a nice dinner and a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc I'd been saving. That's all I wanted, a moment of peace in the home we'd built together. As I turned the corner into our driveway, the gravel crunched under the wheels in a way that seemed heavier this time. The clouds opened briefly and a slanted ray of light fell across our windows, glimmering against the glass. I remember thinking it was a good sign, that we'd gotten through a tough period and were about to move forward. I hadn't felt that kind of hope in a while. I pressed the garage door button, then decided against it. Instead of parking safely inside, I chose to leave my car a little further down the drive. I wanted this to be a surprise, a small, intimate moment we hadn't gotten in a long time. Walking quietly up the path to our back door, I noticed something immediately. The patio light was off, although it normally clicked on at sundown. The back door was closed, not locked, a small oversight, perhaps, or a sign of something more. I pressed against it and it opened without resistance. As I crossed the threshold into the dimly lit kitchen, I felt a rush of nervous anticipation. I'd meant to call her, to let her know I was home, but something made me pause. Instead, I stood there in the shadows, listening. Then I heard it, her voice, not sweet and affectionate the way it usually was with me, but firm, calculating. Once we get the inheritance, we can cut him loose. He's been useful, but we're done with him now. For a moment, I thought I'd misunderstood, that I'd gotten it all wrong, that she meant something else. But then another voice, a deep, gravelly voice I recognized immediately, answered her. It was Julian, a man I'd called a friend, a man I trusted. That weak man has no clue. His designs, his money, his legacy, it'll all be ours soon enough. My knuckles turned white around the neck of the Sauvignon Blanc I'd meant to celebrate with. My pulse pounded in my ears. The silence I'd felt a few minutes earlier was gone, now it seemed filled with thunder I barely kept from exploding. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to stay hidden, trying to stay calm. My mind rushed back through all the small signs I'd ignored, the late nights, the phone messages that were quickly erased, the strange glances when I walked into a room. It all made perfect, awful sense now. I fought back the rush of rage and disbelief. Confronting them immediately would be messy, unproductive. It would allow them a chance to destroy documents, erase messages, cover their tracks. If I was going to destroy their conspiracy, I'd need hard proof. I'd need patience. So I turned quietly and walked back into the chilly November air, closing the back door without a sound. My breath misted in the freezing air as I crossed the gravel path back toward my car. The heavens opened just then, letting a freezing rain fall, drop by drop, washing away whatever hope I'd had for my marriage and igniting a resolve within me that I hadn't felt in years. From that moment forward, I made a vow to myself. I would let them believe I was oblivious. I would let them hang themselves with their own lies. And when the time came, I'd make sure everyone knew the true face of Lila and Julian for what it really was. The rain fell all night. I remember sitting in my car across the road from our home, letting it come down in icy sheets against the windshield. Inside, I could see the warm glow of the lamps in the living room, two silhouettes close together, Lila and Julian, oblivious to the man freezing outside in the dark. I turned the key in the ignition just a bit to keep warm, careful not to illuminate the headlights. The last thing I wanted was for them to realize I'd come back or that I'd heard their conspiracy in its rawest form. I pressed myself back into the seat, letting the thunder of the rain mask the rush of my pulse. As I sat there, I forced myself to reflect. Who was this woman I'd married? Was it all a lie from the start? Had I blinded myself to her true motives because I wanted to believe in a happy marriage, a future, a family? Flashed through my mind were snapshots. Lila smiling on our first vacation together. The promises we made under a purple sunset. The nights we fell asleep side by side, believing we'd grow old together. But now those memories seemed distant, phony. A story we told ourselves. I turned off the engine and walked back toward the back door. Quiet this time, careful not to make a sound. I pressed my forehead against the wooden frame and listened. Inside, their conversation flowed effortlessly. There were no doubts, no shame, just two people counting their spoils. That will is a formality at this point. Julian's voice was calm, assured. Your parents already trust you more than him. All we need is patience. A few more months, and everything we want falls into our hands. My knuckles tightened against the wet wood. My whole body trembled. Not from the cold, but from a rage I hadn't known I was capable of. The people I'd let into my life were tearing it from me piece by piece. But I fought back the temptation to confront them, to kick in the door and demand answers. That would be a temporary rush, a dramatic scene, not a permanent solution. Instead, I pressed myself into the shadows, letting their words sink in, letting this raw feeling harden into resolve. I made myself a promise in that moment, a vow more powerful than marriage. I would destroy their conspiracy carefully, piece by piece, from the inside. I'd let them believe I was weak, blind, easily manipulated. But when the time came, I'd dismantle their world in a way that left no room for recovery. Walking back to my car under a sky now clearing, I turned the key once more and pressed forward into the freezing night. Not away from the danger, but toward it. Whatever it took, I would expose the truth. Whatever it cost me, I would make sure Lila and Julian fell from their throne of lies. The next few days were a delicate performance, a role I hadn't expected to play in my own life. Each morning, I'd wake up beside Lila, watch her breathe evenly in her sleep, and pretend I hadn't heard a word of her conspiracy. I'd kiss her forehead, say good morning, in the same affectionate tone I'd mastered over years of marriage, and then I'd carry on with my day, wearing the mask of a trusting, oblivious husband. Inside, though, I was anything but oblivious. I'd become a shadow actor in their little play, letting the villains believe the king was blind and powerless. There were moments when I felt sick to my stomach, when Lila pressed her lips to mine, when she insisted we celebrate some small milestone in her plans, but I kept up the charade. There was a greater justice at stake. Meanwhile, I made a phone call, a discreet call from a payphone across town, to a man I'd researched carefully. His name was Cole Harper, a private investigator who specialized in cases like mine. Cole was a former detective, a man who'd gotten sick of seeing justice manipulated by those rich or clever enough to exploit the system. His methods were unconventional, sometimes borderline legal, but that was what I needed. Someone who'd pursue the hidden, messy truth without flinching. We met in a dimly lit corner booth of a jazz lounge I hadn't entered in years. Cole listened quietly, without judgment, while I explained everything. The phone messages, the will, the clandestine conversations I'd overheard. His piercing blue eyes remained fixed on me. Not a muscle in his face betrayed a reaction. But when I finished, a small spark glimmered in his gaze, the spark of a hunter who'd gotten the scent. I'll follow their trail piece by piece, Cole said quietly. Bank transactions, phone logs, meetings, we'll find something we can use in court. And when we do, we'll destroy their little conspiracy from the inside. Walking back to my car afterwards, I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. I was no longer powerless. I was not a victim. I was a man preparing for a showdown I intended to win. Meanwhile, back home, Lila remained charming, affectionate, oblivious to the net closing around her. She called me darling and love, words that tasted bitter on my tongue, and made plans for a future I was already dismantling. I nodded and played along, because soon enough the roles would reverse. I thought I'd prepared myself for every kind of betrayal, but nothing stung like hearing my own sister's voice. The anger in it, the disbelief, when she showed up on my doorstep late one night. Eric, what the hell is going on? Claire demanded, her breath fogging in the cold. Lila called me. She's terrified. She says you're becoming paranoid, cruel, trying to cut her out of Mom and Dad's will. Is that true? For a moment, I couldn't even speak. I just looked at her, at my sister, my closest ally through childhood, the one person I thought could see through lies. And now she stood here, glaring at me like I was the villain. She told you that? I finally asked, voice low. She's been helping them, Eric. More than you have. She's been here. She's taken them to appointments, handled the paperwork you didn't want to deal with. And now you're accusing her of what? Plotting against you. I felt the weight of every word, but I didn't let it break through my calm. I stepped back, gesturing for her to come inside. She hesitated, then followed. I walked to the den, retrieved the folder I'd been building with Cole, photos, bank statements, message transcripts, GPS logs, hotel receipts. Hard, ugly proof. I dropped it onto the coffee table between us. Look, I said simply. She stared at the folder like it might burn her fingers. But slowly she opened it. Page after page, her expression changed from defiance to confusion to horror. "Oh my God," Claire whispered. "This can't be real." "It is," I said quietly. "I wish it weren't." Her hands trembled as she flipped through photo after photo of Lila and Julian, the stolen moments, the stolen money, the stolen plans for my family's legacy. She finally looked at me, tears in her eyes. "Eric, I've been telling her things. About Mom and Dad. About your schedule. I thought I was helping. I thought I was helping you." I sat down beside her. "You were trying to do the right thing. That's what she counted on." Claire wiped her face with her sleeve, breathing hard. "What do you want me to do?" "Tell the truth," I said. "When this comes to court, I need you to tell them everything. What she said to you. How she twisted it. How she used you." Claire nodded, her voice stronger. "I will." But Lila wasn't done with her games. Over the next week, I started seeing the cracks she tried to spread in my professional life. Meetings mysteriously canceled. Clients who suddenly doubted me. Drafts of my designs showing up in the strangest places as if someone had leaked them to competitors. It was subtle sabotage, the kind that tried to make me look careless. But I saw through it. I stayed late at the office, rebuilding lost files, calling clients one by one to reassure them, and tightening every digital lock Lila had once had a key to. Every move she made only strengthened my resolve. I wasn't just fighting for my money anymore. I was fighting for my name. The trial was not a showdown of shouting and dramatic revelations. It was a careful dismantling, piece by piece, of the story Lila had constructed around herself. My lawyer, Raymond Voss, called Cole Harper first. Cole walked the jury through phone messages, financial transactions, and hotel bills tying Lila directly to fraud and conspiracy. His testimony fell like hammer blows, each piece adding weight to a growing picture of deception. Then came my sister, Claire. She stood up there, hands shaky but voice firm, and explained how Lila had manipulated her, turning a loving sibling into an unwilling accomplice. There were moments when Claire faltered, nearly cried, but through it all she kept going. She chose the truth over her doubts, over years of loyalty, and I felt a strange mixture of sadness and peace. Whatever the outcome, we were choosing honesty. Lila tried to interrupt, tried to portray herself as a misunderstood wife, a caregiver, a woman backed into a corner by a cold, ambitious man. But the messages, the documents, the testimony, it all fell against her like a wall closing in. When the private recordings were played, her voice casually discussing the will, the theft of my designs, the conspiracy to undermine me, a hush fell over the courtroom. The jury remained silent. The journalists pressed forward, microphones poised. There was no spinning this, no framing it in a more sympathetic light. The conspiracy was plain for all to see. I remained composed through it all. I'd lived with this nightmare for months, now I was simply letting the facts speak. Inside, I felt something else, not triumph, not gloating, but a deep, quiet resolve. Whatever the jury decided, whatever punishment fell upon Lila and Julian, I'd done what I came here to do. I'd fought back. I'd gotten my life back. The verdict came back faster than I expected. The jury barely deliberated, there was simply no doubt left. Lila was found liable for fraud, conspiracy, theft, and defamation. Julian fell alongside her, his license suspended, his reputation in tatters, a dramatic downfall for a man who'd gotten rich by cutting corners and trusting the loyalty of the woman by his side. As the gavel fell, Lila turned and looked back at me. There were no more masks left, no charming smiles or manipulative promises, just a raw mixture of shame, disbelief, and pure rage. But when her piercing gaze met mine, I felt nothing. The love I'd once felt for her was gone. The power she'd held over me had evaporated. Walking down the courthouse steps into the chilly afternoon, I turned off my phone and let silence envelop me. Reporters called after me, questions fell from their lips. How does it feel? Are you going to rebuild? But I kept walking. There was nothing more to say. In the months that followed, I fell back into a rhythm. My practice rebounded. Clients who'd doubted me came back, and new ones arrived, eager to collaborate with a man who'd fought against unimaginable betrayal and remained standing. I kept in touch with Claire. We'd become close again, mending something we hadn't even noticed was broken. My parents' will was amended, their legacy safely back in the hands of the family. Cole Harper remained a friend and a powerful ally, a man who'd fought alongside me when many turned away. As for me, I started designing again. The first project I finished after the trial was a small community center, a place meant to bring people together, to foster trust instead of deception. It seemed a fitting rebirth, a symbol of renewal. Some nights, when the city fell silent and I stood by my window looking over the skyline, I'd reflect on all that had happened. The conspiracy, the trial, the betrayals, and the people who remained. The future was mine again. Whatever came next, it would be a future I chose. Some nights, when I close my eyes, I can still hear the rain against our rooftop, the midnight phone calls, the promises made and broken. But these ghosts no longer control me. They're a part of me, chapters in a story I fought hard to close, not the whole story. Today, I walk forward with a peace I hadn't felt in years. My practice is thriving, my relationships are honest, and I'm designing a future I can be proud of. Whatever I lost made room for something more, something real. The greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's renewal. It's choosing to live when everything seemed designed to destroy me.